Okay. Okay.
5:59.
5:59, yes. It's almost 6.
Hi everyone, it's Missy.
Hey, Missy, okay, it's another 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Okay, 6 o'clock, I'm calling the meeting to order for the tape machine here. This is the monthly meeting of the Park and Rec Commission. It's April 1st, 2021, and that's all I have to say, right, Don, to the tape at that? Okay, point. All right, good. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. The next one is attendance. The Park and Rec commissioners that are on the line, please let. First of all, Mary Ellen, are you there, or what Park and Rec commissioners are there, please? Missy, you?
Missy's here.
Okay.
Yep.
Who else?
Mary Ellen.
Mary Ellen, you're here? Okay, good. And by the way, myself, John Flower, and Don Bugby are here at the meeting hall, Town Hall, and Glenn and Tim Gavin are unable to make it tonight. So we've got Missy.
I'm just waiting for Brendan.
Missy, Mary Ellen.
Brendan.
Oh, okay, Brendan, you're there, okay. And that should be it, right? We'll have 5 commissioners here. Myself, okay. Good. Anyone also in attendance that is attending this meeting? Candace Fuchs, I know you said you could hear me. Anyone else?
Hi Bob, Greg Hackett here.
Okay, Greg, you're here too. Okay, anyone else want to be recognized as a guest? No? Hearing no reply, then I'll move on with the agenda. The next one is to approve the previous minutes. Mary Ellen, I only saw one thing that I think has to be changed. I know has to be changed. It was not a special meeting on February 4th. It was a regular meeting. At the very top, you probably used it from the meeting before, a special meeting, but it was, just change that please to regular meeting. Anyone else have any comments on the February 4th meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to approve the February 4th regular meeting minutes?
All right, I'll make
A motion to approve.
Okay, that was Missy?
Okay, I'll second. Missy, I'll second.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it was Mary Ellen and Missy?
Yeah.
Okay, fine, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anyone opposed? No. Anyone abstain? No. Okay. So moved. That's the meeting minutes from February 4th have been approved. Next is the director's report. Don, go ahead.
All right, I'd just like to start out getting into what's going on going forward, and the number one thing on that list is the day camp. The commissioners all received an email from me about the day camp or the possibility of holding it or not, and I got responses back, and we need to discuss that tonight, and I think a decision needs to be made whether or not to hold the day camp this year. Anybody like to add any discussion to what they told me?
Well, I think we all commented on that being in COVID times. You pointed out that it would be kind of hard to do what the school's doing based on a very limited budget and a limited staff. and that if you ever had to do contract tracing, it'd be impossible, basically, and probably to caution on the side of what's best for the kids, because now it shows up the kids are also getting COVID, and they have not been vaccinated, that we all kind of agreed that unfortunately it may be tough to do the day camp. Anything else you'd like to say, Don, or anybody else?
I think it would be, I certainly would like to hold the day camp, but I think it would be prudent to hold off one more season just to be sure, because also in my opinion, the contact tracing is a very hard element to this. And as an example, this past winter, with much smaller numbers and much more control, like in basketball teams, there was 3 teams in our league that got shut down because of this type of stuff. And I don't know, I don't think we're there yet. I really don't.
Didn't you also report?
But it's up to you. It's up to the commission whether they think so or not. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Didn't you also comment that at one day last week or the week before, over 100 kids couldn't go to school because of this contact tracing?
Yes,
that's almost a quarter of the high school population. So it would be awful tough. Anybody else? Any other commissioner like to comment?
Yeah, I don't, this is John Flower, I don't think we should have it this summer. I think it'd just be logistically too difficult.
Right. And also possible health risks.
Right.
Yeah. Anyone else like to comment?
Yeah, I just wanted Brendan.
Oh, Brendan. Hi, Brendan.
Sorry, Miss here. Oh, whoever wants to go first, that's okay.
Sorry, Brendan. I was just going to agree with what everyone says. I know Don knows my feelings on it. As much as I think it would be great for the kids to have, I do think it would be a nightmare to do, and I do think it would be in the best interest of I think people would just prefer to know one way or another at this point, probably. And I think people would understand.
Thank you, Missy.
I think so too, Missy. I've only gotten a handful of calls so far asking about it, so I think everybody's thinking the same way. But you're right, we just have to make a decision sooner rather than later.
Right.
And I think it's kind of a no-win, because if we hold it and something occurs, then it's a no-win, because it would have been why would you do this,
Anybody else like to comment? Brendan?
I just want to elaborate.
Mary Ellen? Go ahead.
I agree with not having it this year.
Okay. Anything else? No, Mary Ellen? That's sufficient. Brendan, your turn.
Oh, sure. So I just want to, because I think I was the only one on the email chain that had some, I was actually, before Don had sent his email, my thought was to have the day camp, and I kind of listed my reasons why in the email, just based on kind of what I've seen and my thoughts, and a lot of people have reached out to me just in my sphere anyway, just about the day camp. It's a great thing. The day camp, especially for me, because I went to the day camp, I was a counselor at the day camp, I love that day camp. It's a super awesome thing. But anyway, I just wanted to elaborate that. With all of that said, I had never taken into consideration the contact tracing, the cleaning of the balls, the gear, everything that the people use. And I would certainly defer to Don. Don, the nuance of what goes on at that camp, Don knows better than anybody. So I just wanted to let that be known that, with that said, I defer to what Don, I think that his expertise on this, which no doubt is an expertise, is something that we should all take very seriously.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you just said, Brendan. I think that was all the commissioners have commented. Yes. So, at this point, who would like to make a motion that because of health concerns, contact tracing, and generally want to be safe and have a safe camp for, or whatever. Who wants to make a motion other than what I just mumbled? What? Would someone like to make a motion out there to, that we've decided out of an abundance of caution, based with all the difficulties and of sanitizing, contact tracing, making sure that everyone was healthy. In fact, with the fact that the kids have not been inoculated, that we should put off the day camp for this coming season, and hopefully, this is just an aside, and come the fall, the kids get vaccines that seem to be, the data showing that at least the Pfizer one seems to be doable, up to 16, or down to 16, and also in younger kids. I think we could look forward to much better, future for a day camp next year. So would somebody just like to make a motion that's not as
All right,
random?
I'll make that motion, John Flower, that we don't have the daycare based on, health concerns and contact tracing concerns and, just the comments that have been made.
Yeah, okay. Someone like to second?
Mary Ellen will second it.
Okay. Any more discussion on it? Now hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
John said aye.
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 Mary Ellen, aye.
Okay. So that was unanimous. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the day camp can happen this year, and it won't. But if you want to continue, because we're looking at.
Yeah, that's next.
Yeah, okay, you're next. Okay, so the director, Don, will continue with his report.
Okay, thank you everybody for your input on that. I know that I'm in the process now of trying to arrange some smaller group camps, outside type things, soccer, tennis, maybe some basketball. Those things are all in the works right now. I've made contact with people, but nothing has been decided because we were actually waiting to see what the winter season did for us, which I was involved with at the high school for basketball, obviously, and what they were allowing for the spring season, which is basically just started this past week. So I'll get on the other stuff, and hopefully we can put together a respectable amount of things to do for kids in that regard, and I will update everybody as soon as possible. And as far as information, I will update the website as soon as possible with the latest camp information going forward. So thank you for that. On to other things. The Limo Lime Little League organization is in swing. They are at Cross Lane and they are at Townwoods Park. They are formulating their schedules and stuff like that. Little League has, let's see, right now they have 160 kids involved with Little League. Quick breakdown is there's one boys team they call 50-70. That's a little farther pitching mound and a little longer base pass. They have one boys major team. They have 3 boys kid pitch teams. They have 4 boys coach pitch teams. The girls side, they have 1 major team for softball, 1 kid pitch for softball, and 1 coach pitch for softball. And they have 6 t-ball teams. So they just had all that stuff figured out. I just got that information today. And so they're at Cross Lane and Townwoods Park doing their thing. And they're practicing the social distancing and wearing masks, et cetera, et cetera. The lacrosse club is at Townwoods Park. I got a breakdown of their stuff. They've been practicing this week. They won't practice tonight because the fields are wet from last night and today's rain. But they've been there since the weekend. They are practicing the social distancing thing, wearing masks, etc. They are in process of putting their game schedule together to run by me. I'm meeting with the lacrosse president tomorrow about all that stuff. Total number of kids registered for that right now is 221. And I have the breakdown here somewhere. Right now, the breakdown for those players, because this is a multi-town situation, there's currently 78 from Lyme or Old Lyme, 83 from Old Saybrook, 56 from the Tri-Town area, which is Chester, Deep River, and Essex, and there's 3 from Westbrook. So it looks like there's approximately 35% of the rosters are from Lyme and Old Lyme kids. So once I get their schedules, I will go over those and make sure that we're approximately at about 35% or so of practices and games being held at Townwoods Park. So we share the responsibility.
Oh, so they'll share fields,
Yeah.
these other teams.
Yeah.
And this is kind of very reflective of the fact that over the years, that when they just had Lyme and Old Lyme, the numbers were dwindling to the point where they really couldn't field many teams, right, Don?
Right.
So
right.
that's why they went into cooperative.
Yeah, had to go co-op.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's all in process. Have a very good relationship with the lacrosse president and Little League as well, and everything is fine. As far as the soccer club, I haven't got any numbers from the soccer club yet. No information, no schedule information or anything. I've been in contact with them, so that's just going to be pending. And nothing will be happening until I get that stuff. The water at Townwoods Park has been turned on. The building was sanitized today with the initial steam cleaning, and now we're waiting for water test results to get into past situations so we can open up the building. The water is turned on at Cross Lane Park. We don't do any water testing there because that's all under Connecticut water system, but those bathrooms will be initial clean today or probably tomorrow. So we're up and running on those two things. White Sand Beach, we normally don't get the water onto that building until later in April, depending on the weather. So that's on the schedule. And Haynes Park, I guess we can wait till the Haynes Park update on that.
Okay, yeah, that's very good.
All right?
Any questions for Don or comments, commissioners? No?
None from me.
No? Out there in telephone?
Don, I do have one
Oh,
question.
okay.
It's Missy.
Yes.
Do you want to write something up, like a statement about the camp, and I can put it on social media, or how do you want to do that, or should we just talk later?
We can just talk later. I can make up something and get it to you, and you can, post it that way. It'll get done before my website gets updated, probably. But I'll give you a call about that. We'll get it done over the weekend,
Okay.
unless you're home
Yeah.
counting your
Sounds good.
Easter eggs.
No, hiding. She's got to hide the Easter eggs.
We have to talk about another subject, anyways, Missy. So I'll give you a call.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. And anyone else like to add anything or ask anything? No? Hearing nothing else, thank you, Don, for that update. Yeah, thank God that the kids can get out there and play again with proper precautions being taken so that hopefully they'll have a good season. Okay. The next one after Director's Report is the Haynes Park Bathroom Project Update.
All right. We're seeing the end of that line on that situation. There's just some very minor punch list type stuff that they've been working on this week. They got a little bit of grading to do around the building to help with some water situations, and they're working very diligently on the water situation, the internal water situation for sure. And they're trying the new pump system and new storage system out and adjusting that, and they're testing water, so we're just almost there. Phil Parchik has indicated that hopefully it will be open by April 15th. So we're almost there, folks.
Okay, and in fact, they were testing too the way to run that system, being that you don't fill up the tanks all the way, you fill it up to a certain point?
Yeah, they're trying to
but-
figure out the balance between water usage and the ability of the well to replenish the supply, and they're working on it.
Good, good. And the other things are just little minor punch list items,
Yeah,
if there's
a
anything
little
else.
painting, a little bit of signage, that type of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So it looks like hopefully within the next couple of weeks or something, that building may become operational. Would you say that?
Yes,
Yeah.
looks like it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments for Don on the bathroom project update?
Sorry, it's Missy again. I have
Okay.
one more thing. And I don't know if I should talk about this, or I should ask this now or later on in the meeting, but I have a question about signage, and something pertaining with the LYSB and signs at the various parks. Should I ask now or at the end of the meeting?
That should probably be under new business.
That'll be under new business, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right. Are we done with that? Anybody else? No? Okay. We go on. Hello? Did somebody say something? No? Okay.
I see the president. I said no.
Oh, okay. All right. The next one is the status of the agreement / path for 176 Boston Post Road to the town docks and Old Line. Okay, Mary Ellen, if you could please add a copy of the March, where is it?
24th.
Oh, no. No, first, the March 7th letter that came from the Park and Rec Commission and Mr. Griswold was requested by Mr. Griswold because he would like to see this agreement either finalized or not in the near future. He also pointed out that because we have spent extensive time and resources on the draft agreement, and we are unwilling to go much beyond what was put forward on September 1st, we'd like to bring these negotiations to a close and are generally unwilling to incur any additional legal fees if the LLC does not agree in large part to the September 1st version. So, that was basically what that letter was about. And if you could also attach to the minutes the response to the PRC March 24th that came from Greg Hack on behalf of the Bloodstream Partners LLC. And what we're going to do at this point is we're going to review all the points made of that March 24th meeting, and I'd like the commissioners to comment. I will have some initial comments, and I would like then the commissioners to also comment on different parts of that particular correspondence of March 24th. Okay, so I'll start it off, and what I'm going to do is read each section that was in that March 24th communication, and then we'll have comments for each part of that. Okay, so as the first part of it, that letter says, as you know, the owners / taxpayers of 176 Boston Post Road feel strongly that an agreement should not be necessary to allow them to use a public park for an activity that others who drive to the park freely engage in, but as the PRC is insisting upon it, we are willing to sign an agreement that includes the following modifications. Okay, before we get to that, I'd like to clear up a couple things. First, Haynes Park is not a public park. The general use of Haynes Park, except for the boathouse, is limited to Old Line residents only. So it's not open to the general public, okay? Limited use of portions of Haynes Park by non-residents is specific to those areas of the park associated with the use of the boathouse to support the high school rowing and community rowing programs only. as specified in the two agreements signed by Regional School District 18 and the Old Lyme Rowing Association. Okay, no, there's a notation here that neither of the above agreements provide high school or community rowers access to the portion of Haynes Park that contains the playground, picnic area, swimming beach, the portion between 176 Boston Post Road and the town-owned docks, or the use of the basketball court. But of course, they're allowed to use the parking area and access by foot over to the boathouse. And of course, once we get the bathrooms going, they're also allowed to be used. Okay, and the second part is all users must comply with park rules, which have been established by the Parks and Rec Commission to allow the safe and reasonable use by all park visitors. This includes the requirement that rowing boats exceeding 15 feet in length, a typical car length, must enter and exit the park via the boathouse entrance after 9 a.m. to avoid safety concerns at times when other park visitors may use the very small parking lot. Now, before 9 o'clock, I believe it's the rowing program has a 6 to 8 a.m. rowing session, and of course at that time they can use everything, the parking lot and car top or their own boats or whatever. After more than a year of discussion, and the PRC having provided multiple documents to the LLC, including Haynes Park policies, and copies of other limited use agreements and detailed list of PRC concerns, the fact that the owners and members of the Blood Street LLC continue to strongly feel that an agreement should not be necessary and refers to Haynes Park as a public park, at least in my opinion, indicates that the PRC and LLC remain far apart on the fundamental premises on which a mutually beneficial compromise agreement could be based that would allow safe and reasonable use by all park users. My personal concern is that a basic lack of alignment at this point in the discussion suggests that the LLC may not be a cooperative partner, and I don't know that, that's just my concern, and that enforcement of an agreement may also become a challenge, therefore putting the town and other Haynes Park users at unnecessary risk. On the other hand, if no agreement is reached, members of the Blood Street Partners LLC will continue to have the same access to Haynes Park as other resident, non-resident users as defined by existing Haynes Park policies, rules, and agreements. Thus, at this point in my view is that no agreement may be wiser and less risky for the town, rather than proceeding with an unprecedented special limited use agreement with the LLC. However, if the negotiations proceed, I have specific comments. Would anybody else like to comment on that first part about the public park and the feeling that the LLC members feel strongly that an agreement should not be necessary? Anyone have any comment besides what I said? Commissioners, please. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Okay, the next paragraph in the March 24th document. We have indicated our willingness to produce an insurance certificate for you, and we are now willing to list the town of Old Lyme as an additional insured. This insurance will be provided in the name of the property owner, Blood Street Partners LLC, and not the individual members. Okay, my comment is, it was the town attorney that recommended the agreement require each permittee of the LLC, defined as each of the 6 individual members of the Blood Street Partners LLC, obtain and maintain proof of liability insurance and not just the LLC. So basically that comes down to, he also revised the final sentence regarding liability should insurance covers lapse, failure to maintain the required liability insurance will not negate the full liability of a permittee or permittees for the cost associated with any accidents which would otherwise have been covered. It is questionable whether the town attorney would agree to switch to listing only the LLC or making any other changes to the insurance clause. I'm not an expert, but perhaps it has something to do with the laws related to LLC limited liability companies, which could potentially put the town at risk should only the LLC be listed as its liability insurance lapse or the LLC dissolves. Anyone have anything to add as far as the commissioners are concerned?
It's Brendan.
Yes, Brendan.
I would say insurance escapes me a lot, but I would imagine, and of course this would have to be approved by Attorney Carey, but I would imagine that on the insurance certificate there could probably be some language added where the insurance, it would have to list, I would imagine it would have to list the property owner.
Oh, that's no doubt.
LLC.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. And then maybe though it's something which would protect them and the town. If there's language in there, something that says it's, and I'm paraphrasing here, but its members and or assigned. Because if they have people, if there's people at the house and they're going through this area that aren't owners, the town would want their assigned, I put that in air quotes, part of the coverage too. So I would say, I think that just maybe a language fix. I don't know what the LLC's position on it is, but it's just something that I thought about as you were making your comments, Bob. So I throw that out there.
And I think part of the thing is that our original agreement, the reason we even were willing to try and work out an agreement, was the use of the projected path was going to be just for the 6 permittees or members of the LLC, and not for anyone else. It was just their limited use of the park was limited to 6 LLC members. And this is, of course, what an attorney would resolve, that maybe to put some language in there that if one LLC member was to leave, that another would then have to read the agreement and sign the agreement. But I know that Attorney Carey was the one, because we didn't initially put in that all the 6 LLC members had to sign this agreement, and he seemed to insist upon it in order to protect the town, Brendan.
Yeah, I was just talking about just the insurance, though, whether or not, it's like there can be like a catch-all phrase in there.
Okay.
Relative to the members of the LLC, you know what I mean?
Okay, well, if we continue to go on with this, then I'm sure we could work something very simple out on that we, if Attorney Carey thought this was necessary, because like we're not insurance experts but we do have a policy that any organization, any sports club, anyone that uses any of the park properties must carry liability insurance that is signed in favor of the town in order to have any participation on town property, for no matter what it is, okay? Everyone has to have liability insurance so the town is protected. Anyone else would like to make a comment on that? The Park and Rec Commissioners, Missy, Mary Ellen, John, anyone? No?
I don't.
Okay. Next paragraph. We are prepared to sign a document that notes the names of all 6 members, but the document should be signed only by the 2 owner-managers, as we have suggested. The document should acknowledge that a member may change in the future. While we understand that the PRC wishes to limit the number of persons named in this agreement, it is unreasonable to limit the ownership structure of the property. Okay. Because the town attorney is the one who recommended that all 6 of the LLC members' permittees sign the agreement, An alternative proposal may be the following, which I kind of briefly went over before. All 6 LLC members sign the agreement and a clause be added that specifies that individual LLC members may be replaced one for one, not to exceed a total of 6 members, if the new LLC member agrees to sign a supplemental agreement indicating they agree with all the terms of the original agreement. We can explore this alternative with the town attorney if this is acceptable to the LLC. Park and Rec Commissioners, anybody else like to comment on it?
No, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah. Okay, John, anybody else? Brendan?
No comment.
Okay, Missy, Mary Ellen, anyone else?
I have no comment.
No, okay.
I don't either.
Okay. All right. The next paragraph. We request the language in the document also acknowledge that members may access the docks with a guest of their choosing accompanying them on the path if carrying a double 2-person scull. We also would like to include language that others may use the path from time to time on a temporary basis with permission from the PRC director. Okay, this is my opinion. I'm okay with that first request to allow a guest to help carry a double boat along the approved path if the 2-person boat is owned by an LLC member. I do not agree to the second request that would allow others, non-LLC members / guests, to carry boats along the approved path through Haynes Park, as this would not align with the initial basis of a proposed compromise agreement limiting use to the 6 LLC owners and may also complicate liability insurance coverage. That's my comment. I think, Brendan, you had a comment on that. Do you have a comment on that? The first part, no problem. If they want to have a guest and it's their boat and they're there with them to carry seems okay with me. But the second part, just to have anyone be using that path for the limited agreement does not seem reasonable. Anybody else on the PRC?
Yeah, it doesn't, John Flower, it doesn't make sense because basically if you agree to that, then anyone can use it.
Yeah. Anyone that the 176 people
Right.
invite over to use it or whatever.
Right.
And of course, I think the other part is we can't expect that Don Bugbee, he has so many responsibilities in all the different parts and programs, would have to be contacted on what specific people would be. He's just kind of smiling over here. That he would be a contact person to allow so and so to use this. I mean, it's just right, Don. I mean, yeah, Don's shaking his head in agreement. Would you like to?
I don't know who half the people are in the LLC.
Well, I think we're going to have to find out just to make sure that if this agreement is signed, that we know who they are and this and that. If the agreement gets signed. Anyone else from the PRC would like to comment on this? No, hearing none, we'll go on to the next paragraph. As Tim and Brendan noted during the meeting, any reference to the number of boats stored on the property should be removed from the document. This agreement is about people with rolling shelves using the path of the town docks, which as an aside were purchased with, in parentheses, which as an aside were purchased with money donated by rowers, including some of the owners of this property, end of parentheses, not about how many boats are stored at the property. We have greatly reduced the size and footprint of our proposed structure based upon input from the PRC. It is beyond the scope of the PRC to determine how we may use the property. Okay, in my opinion, to not specify the exact number of boats to be stored on the property, if the agreement stipulates both that all boats stored on the property are owned by LLC members. Otherwise, it's impossible to enforce only LLC owners and LLC-owned boats using the path. And secondly, 176 Boston Post Road remain a private residence which aligns with prior commitments the LLC made to the PRC, the ZBA, and the Zoning Commission. And just an additional comment, if non-LLC members were allowed to store boats on the property which could be viewed as providing a commercial service, and in parentheses, even if no profit is realized, the property may no longer meet the definition of a residential use or a customary residential accessory use. Any change in the property's approved use, which is for a residential dwelling, may require a special permit from the Zoning Commission, assuming the zoning requirements for that new use can be met, and might require a re-review of those prior agreements. Anyone like to comment from the PRC?
Brendan,
Yes.
I guess I still don't understand how we would have any jurisdiction as to how it is that what they do with the property. I kind of default to that. I just don't know how we can have any say in that.
We can't, and I think as I noted that the last time we met, I also agree we can't tell them how to use their private residence. However, we can limit the use of the projected path, which is a major part of our agreement, to only the permittees or owners, the 6 owners of the property on the LLC. Would you agree with that, Brendan? For using that path?
Say that again, Bob. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. That I agree. We can't have any jurisdiction over how they use their property. However, we can limit the people that use that projected path to Haynes Park, and limit that to the 6 LLC members, and we can also limit it to only boats that are owned by the LLC can accompany the people, or the people can only accompany those boats. That's in order to use the path. As far as if they want to look into having, renting spaces to other people, this and that, they can do that, but they can't use, I guess they could do that if the zoning people would agree, but we can't, those people would not be allowed to use the projected path. Would you agree with that, Brendan?
Well, just back to the thing you said about the boats, and this goes back to Don's point. How would we ever know who owns the boats?
Well,
you know what I mean? It's
we
kind of getting into the nuance of that. We could go down.
We could also amend we can amend the agreement to state that only boats owned by LLC members are allowed to be carried through the projected path. Correct? We could at least do that, I believe, Brendan. As far as they want other boats there or whatever, that's their business, but they would not be allowed to use the projected path. John, what do you think?
I agree.
Yeah.
The path would be for the 6 members, and whatever boats they have there, it's not our issue.
Right.
But using the path is our issue.
Anyone else like to comment? Park and Rec commissioners?
I don't have anything, Bob.
Okay. Mary Ellen, thanks. Okay. Hearing no other comments, we'll go to the next part. In their document, it says, please remove the term portaging from the document. It's not a big deal, but that term is more accurately used when carrying canoes and other boats in the backcountry from one body of water to another. We suggest carrying the rowing shells or something similar. My opinion is I'm okay to replace the word portaging, or however you say it, with something more appropriate, such as carrying the rowing shells. Any Park and Rec commissioners like to comment?
No comment. It's fine.
It'd be changed. Yeah. Anyone else?
You don't make it.
No comment.
Yeah, okay. Hearing none, we'll move on. And next paragraph says, as several PRC members suggested during the most recent PRC meeting, please remove the statement related to the 10-foot wide strip of land on the neighboring property. That agreement is between us and the homeowner, that homeowner. You could slightly modify the map to suggest that we can walk the boats to the dock, staying as far away as possible from the play area. Well, first of all, my personal opinion is I don't recall the PRC agreeing that the requirement for obtaining permission to use the 10-foot strip of the neighboring property be removed. I'm also unsure as to why this is included, because this would be an issue. As LLC member/manager Mr. Ferguson stated previously that the LLC had obtained the neighbor's permission. And also, obtaining the neighbor's permission is relevant to this agreement, since the map of the approved path attached to the agreement shows the path going over the neighboring property, as initially proposed by the LLC and agreed to by the PRC. It would be inappropriate to include a map of that approved path in the agreement if permission by the neighboring property has not been granted or was not granted. An alternative path does not include use of the 10-foot strip of neighboring land has not been previously agreed to by the PRC. Anyone like to comment on that, John?
No, I agree with that. From the very first meeting when we first met out on the site, at the end of the meeting, we discovered that there was that 10-foot path, and we were told that that's how they would carry the boat.
Yeah. Or seek out to get permission.
See that they could carry them there. And then we were told later on that they had permission.
Right, we were told, yeah.
Right, so to me, it only is logical that would be their means of access, is that 10-foot strip. Now, as we can't say that they have to use that because we don't own the property, but we were told by them,
by Mr. Ferguson.
Right, that they were going to use that strip.
And that he had obtained permission.
Correct. Well, in one of the following meetings, someone had said they had obtained permission.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I believe it was Mr. Ferguson at least arranged that permission or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, we have no control over that as far as whether they get permission or not.
Although we insisted on seeing that they get permission.
Correct.
In a written document.
Right, because we were told originally that would be their means of access.
Right.
And that they did obtain permission to use it.
Right.
That's my recollection.
Right. Anyone else like to comment from the PRC?
Is it still their means of access?
I don't know. I'm going by what we've heard. We heard there was permission to use that.
Right, I assumed it still was.
Yeah, well.
But I guess, John, my question is, I haven't been to the site, but I'm just trying to see it in my mind. In order for them, the owners of the property, to walk across Haynes Park, it's necessary that they have the 10-foot strip or not? That's where I have to...
Yeah.
No, right now, if they have the 10-foot strip, they can leave their property without touching Haynes Park, and they can walk almost all the way down to the parking area without touching Haynes Park, and then they just need access down by the parking area to cut in. Whereas if they don't have that 10-foot access, they have to access Haynes Park directly behind their own property, which is, then it's a lot longer.
Well, it's not long. Basically, we had concerns about walking these boats through that property, especially with the playground and a future playground expansion that we're planning.
Right. I don't mean it's a lot longer for the walk. It's a lot more on Park and Rec property.
Right.
Whereas if they get that 10-foot easement, they hardly encroach on our property at all, except for when they actually access it down by the parking and then head over to the dock. So it's...
Does that help you, Brendan? It's basically there's a wall at the end of the neighbor's property, and the neighbor actually owns approximately 10 feet of the grass area before it comes to the boundary of Haynes Park.
Right. I'm assuming, Don, that Haynes Park, the town crew just mows that every year?
They do.
Yeah, so the town mows it and everything. It appears like it's the town's property, but it actually isn't.
Okay.
Okay, any other Park and Rec Commissioner would like to comment? Hearing none, I'll move on. The next paragraph is, given that the PRC has actively discussed fencing the entire park, we request that this agreement acknowledge that if this occurs in the future, the town will engage in goodwill discussions about continuing to provide access from our property to Haynes Park. And my comment is, if the limited use Haynes Park agreement with the LLC is finalized prior to the town installing a fence around the remainder of Haynes Park, including permission of the neighbor to carry boats across the 10-foot wide section of the property, their property, the town will install a gate at the end of the 10-foot strip of the neighboring property, close to what John described. It's a very short distance from the end of that 10-foot strip to get into the parking lot.
Right.
Okay. However, if permission from the neighboring property owner is not obtained and the agreement with the LLC is not finalized prior to the town going to contract to install the fence, the town does not want to incur the expense of installing a gate for a path that may never be used. If the LLC is concerned about timing of getting the neighbor's property owner's agreement, it would seem reasonable the town commits to installing a gate at the end of the 10-foot wide strip at the LLC's expense. If the neighbor's permission is granted and the finalized agreement with the town is signed after the fence is installed. So the town is willing to put if this agreement is signed prior to the fence being put up there, to put in a gate. And basically, if it's not agreed to for when the fence goes in, then if the LLC then decides to sign the agreement or whatever, they would be responsible to adding a gate.
Right, if we've already...
Yeah, it just makes sense. I mean, but we are willing to work with them on that in both those regards.
Yes, I concur with that.
Yeah. Any other Park and Rec commissioners, please?
No comment.
Okay. Hearing no other comment, the last, well, yeah, just about the last paragraph. Second to last paragraph. We understand that you wish to include paragraph 12 for reasons that were discussed at length during our last meeting. In principle, we will agree to that, assuming that some relatively minor modifications can be made as Brendan suggested. However, we have no desire to obligate the town to anything akin to an easement. However, we respectfully request that provisions be included which provide for notification to Blood Street Partners of any concerns the town or the PRC may have about our use of the park and provide an opportunity to address these concerns before immediate and unilateral cancellation of the agreement occurs. By example, the lease agreement between the town and District 18 from which this agreement is derived contains such provisions, and in parentheses, item number 28. Okay, my comment is we're willing to discuss with the town attorney to adding a provision specifies that as a courtesy, the town/PRC will notify the LLC with LLC contact information being specified, who to notify, or of any concerns it has regarding LLC use of the park and to communicate a town-determined time frame for the LLC to address these concerns, or those concerns, prior to proceeding to the unilateral cancellation of the agreement, as long as adding that provision would not adversely impact the town's legal right to cancel this agreement at will as discussed. Okay. an additional comment. The proposed town LLC agreement was not derived from the town District 18 agreement. Only specific applicable clauses were reused. The premise of which the Region 18 town boathouse lease agreement was based is quite different from that of the proposed LLC town agreement. The town and Region 18 were legally obligated to establish a boathouse lease agreement when the school transferred ownership of the old boathouse to the town for the purposes of complying with steep grant requirements. In contrast, there is no obligation or precedent for the town to establish an agreement to allow an LLC or any commercial entity limited ongoing use of Haynes Park or any town park. We're doing this as a special courtesy at this time for this LLC members trying to work out a reasonable agreement. Okay, also, Section 828 of the town and District 18 agreement, which concerns dispute resolution of the District 18 town agreement, applies to only two specific situations defined in Section 9B and or 17C. Section 9B relates specifically to the school's commitment to enter a subsequent third-party agreement to implement a community rowing program, either with the Old Lyme Rowing Association or a similar organization, in a manner that complies with steep requirements and the other terms of the lease agreement. Basically, Section 28 provides for how the town and Region 18 would resolve differences they had about how the community rowing program was being implemented by the third party. Section 17C relates specifically to the unique situation of when the boathouse, the basis of the lease agreement, is destroyed, and there is disagreement between the town and District 18 as to whether the boathouse should be rebuilt or the lease agreement terminated. Neither of those above clauses situations apply to the proposed LLC town agreement. Okay, any comments? PRC members? No?
I concur.
Yeah, okay, you concur. Any other ones? Brendan, do you have anything to say, or anybody else? Mary Ellen, Missy?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't have any background knowledge about District 18 or anything having to do with that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, generally speaking, I don't have much to comment.
Yeah, no, Brendan, I was involved with those negotiations with Ian and also the school's attorney and Sussman and Shapiro attorney over several meetings, and that's basically what Section 28 was referring to, and I noted the exact section. So basically, those situations do not apply to the proposed LLC town agreement. Okay. All right. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move on. And this is the last paragraph. In order to move forward expeditiously, since we have effectively agreed to the town's and PRC's terms, we request that the PRC direct Brendan and the town's outside counsel, Mike, who happens to be Mike Carey, to work with our counsel to agree upon mutually acceptable final terms, which then be formally agreed by the PRC and Blood Street Partners. Okay, first of all, my comment is there has not yet been a mutual agreement on all the proposed agreement terms. So prior to engaging the town attorney to review and help finalize any agreed revisions to the September 1st version of the draft agreement, the PRC must determine which of the LLC proposed changes are acceptable and which are not, which we tried to go over in this past discussion. And for the LLC proposed changes that the PRC does not accept, the LLC will need to indicate whether they are willing to withdraw those proposed changes. If not, this is my opinion, it may be time for the PRC to move to end these negotiations. Also, in light of all the interactions with the LLC to date, the PRC may want to reconsider whether an agreement with the LLC continues to be in the best interest of the town and all of Haynes Park users. If not, the PRC may want to move to end negotiations. And then the Hack letter ends with sincerely and for all the owners of the 176 Boston Post Road. Greg Hack. Anyone like to comment on that? Because this has been awful difficult this last year, just trying to finalize this agreement, and it's coming to the point where the PRC agrees with what the agreement currently states. So as we said before in our letter of March 4th or whatever it was, March 7th, that we're willing at this point to make some minor changes, but a whole-scale discussion of a new agreement, at least I don't think anyone on the PRC commission is willing to undertake. What do you think, John?
Right. We just spent quite a bit of time running through this last meeting. We just spent a lot of time running through it at this meeting. If Greg is listening, you can collect your notes and get something together and get it to us, and it's basically what we've been looking for, then I would think we'd be able to have an agreement. But if they want to keep going back and forth, I think that it's been quite a while.
Yeah, and I know Mr. Griswold, when he requested that I write that March 7th meeting, and by the way, Mr. Griswold is one of the people that requested that we have an agreement with the LLC. He insisted upon it, in fact. So we've been working all this time to try to come up with an agreement. The PRC has basically approved that September agreement, but we're willing to make, as said John, some minor changes to it, but the whole open up to I think that might be the third attorney we're talking about for the LLC, this is at least to my point of view, that's unacceptable. Either let's sign this agreement, let's agree to some minor changes, or let's just forget about this agreement, because we cannot continue to spend all this time on it. But we're making every effort to do it, to try and make this work. Any other rec commissioner like to comment? And by the way, we are not obligated at all even to make this agreement, because we are not denying access to the people of 176. They can have access to the park just like everybody else does through the boathouse driveways.
Right.
So we've never ever said they couldn't use.
Right, and I think we were trying to, come up with a common good agreement from a year ago, and it doesn't seem to want to. I think we should just get it done one way or the other.
Yep. Okay. Anyone else like to comment from the PRC?
Can I ask Greg a question?
Can we save that for public comment? We have a lot more to go over. I'm sure he'll comment during public, because he is on the line. Can we save that, Brendan? Because he's not on the agenda, and he can do it during public comment, and you can ask him anything you want.
Sounds good.
Okay. Anyone else from the PRC like to comment on that last portion? Hello? Anyone?
Mary Ellen, I agree, Bob. We've been on it long enough. It's been almost a year, I think.
It went back to finally coming to a verbal understanding in June of last year. And this is, it's been going on quite a long time. In fact, it started in December of the year before that Greg Hack came to our Park and Rec meeting to inform us that they had purchased that property approximately 6 months before that December meeting. of their plans for what they'd like to do with that property, and wanted the PRC to endorse it at that time. And of course, we had not enough information to endorse anything at that time.
Right.
So, but we've been dealing with this for, yes, a long time. Any other commissioner like to comment? No? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to the new business. Okay, the next part is the potential PRC capital projects for the fiscal year beginning July 2021. Okay, we've been dealing with the town on what, and Don has done this for years with the town, on what certain things have to be addressed on Park and Rec and town property. And at the last Board of Finance meeting, in the minutes of the Board of Finance meeting, under 1008, Parks and Recreation Facilities and Equipment, the $247,000 to be used towards building projects at Townwoods Park, Haynes Park Playground, parking lot expenses, new fence at Haynes Park, Cross Lane basketball and tennis courts. A motion was made by Mr. Garvin and seconded by Mrs. Ryder to approve $1,630,000. Of course, this is other things that have to be done in the park for capital project funds. Transfer out, motion carried. So at this point, the Board of Finance is willing to provide funds for these particular projects. We'll do our best to do as much as we can with those funds, but I imagine that the Board of Selectmen also has to agree, and I'm not quite sure if they have at this point. And secondly, it has to go to a town meeting where the budget's always discussed, whereas in the past, I think the budget's always passed at a town meeting. So we'll find out after the town meeting whether or not this will become a reality, and we're hoping it does, because this will be very valuable to the community to get some of these projects accomplished.
Unless I heard you wrong, Bob, 247,000 is under Parks and Recreation and
facilities and equipment.
Facility stuff.
Right.
You mentioned 1-point-something million. That's not for other park stuff. That's other towns.
That's for other projects: revaluation, sanitation and recycling, information technology, it's for a whole bunch of other road improvement funds.
Yes.
Yeah, fire apparatus, open space. Yeah, it's just part of the $1,630,000 that the Board of Finance at least has approved for capital project funds.
Also along the lines, I will be contacting the Parks and Rec Commission real shortly again about the Haynes Park playground. You know, if these funds get approved at the town meeting, we could start that project obviously after July 1. So you remember we have 3 examples of the size of playground apparatus, and we're going to have to sit down and decide which one we're going with.
Right.
And figure out more details.
Right.
We've got some money appropriated as long as it passes, and we'll get it done.
We'll address it at that time after July 1.
Yes.
If these funds are eventually approved. Any Park and Rec commissioner would like to comment on the capital business?
Don, were the funds for the Haynes Park playground specifically earmarked for that playground, and were they approved, or do they still need to be approved?
They were approved by the Board of Finance. I don't know about the Board of Selectmen, and it'll be in with the budget that we vote as a town. I believe it's in May.
At the annual town meeting.
Yes. But there's specific money appropriated for Haynes Park. There's specific money appropriated for the basketball, tennis courts, etc.
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of questions on that, but I can talk to you about that later.
All right.
Well, and plus we'd have to prioritize what's being done with this money, because it's, you know, it still remains to be seen if that would cover all these projects. Correct, Don?
Well, I think it would cover everything.
Most of it,
Yeah.
yeah. At least most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, it's right now, I just wanted to, you know, share the news of what the Board of Finance approved. Okay? Yes?
Can you, what meeting was this? I know it was Board of Finance, but do you know the date of the meeting? Was it
I believe it was the March 16th, 2021 Board of Finance,
Yes.
meeting in this minutes.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was, March 16th.
Thank you.
Okay? In case you want to get that initial, that exact wording, or I can send it to you too, but you can get it from that Mary Ellen to include in your minutes, okay?
I'll get it from the website. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, right. Okay, anyone else from PRC? No, hearing none. Let's move on. Okay, the communications between PRC/District 18 and the Old Lyme Rowing Association. Okay, let's talk about how it's very important that there is effective communication that takes place between the Park and Rec, District 18, and Old Lyme Rowing Association. Now, Don, just to go over first District 18, Don has actively engaged with Hildy Heck, the District 18 Athletic Director, on many issues and has come to an agreement for most things, right, Don?
Yes.
By directly talking
Yes.
with Hildy and coming to resolve on whatever the issues were
Yes.
between District 18 and the town for Parks and Rec business. Okay, certain issues still, even though they've been addressed in the past, still have to be addressed, I believe. And Don and I have been talking about that. And some, not limited to this, but some of the issues were that, the one, which was very important, that the parking situation actually has been addressed by the AD and Don, such that when practices are held, the rowing practices are held at Haynes Park, we have a very small parking lot, a very small park. So Hildy has actively got a bus that apparently goes.
She's gotten approval from Mr. Naviser to secure a bus that takes students to and from the high school.
Right.
To the road.
Yeah, so they're,
If they don't want to park at town.
if they don't want to park at Town Woods Park, which has adequate parking. The reason for this is that anytime, like basically in the mornings before 9 o'clock, outside of rowing activities, there's really no residents really using the park, but there should always be parking spaces available for residents at Haynes Park when any program is down there. I mean, you just can't have all the parking spots taken by the students in this case, which has happened in the past. So that was a very good interchange between or exchange between Don and Hildy to work out this problem, and so that was very good. Now, there's been some other things that have been agreed to in the past between Don and the athletic director and the Park and Rec that are still ongoing, it seems. One, I happened to drive by the other day and saw that the high school rowers were doing calisthenics on the basketball court. In the past, Hildy has worked with the high school rowing program to make sure that the basketball court is not used. They used to put ergs on it and this and that. They were doing calisthenics the other day. There's no reason why calisthenics can't be done on the grass between the boathouse and Route 1, at least in my opinion. So Don is going to continue to work on that with Hildy. And this was agreed in the past years, but I saw that apparently someone's forgot about that. Okay, secondly, that the agreement between the superintendent and the town was that all the high school rowers should be off the lake by 6 p.m. I also happened to drive by there at 5 minutes to 7 on Tuesday and saw that boats were still coming in before 7 o'clock, and there obviously were some high school students still in those boats and also around the boathouse. So this has to be reinforced that all the high school programs and practices should be done by 6, which Don told me that basically all practices for all sports at the high school, in most cases, concluded by 6, right, Don?
Except for basketball in the winter.
Yeah.
6:45 is the latest.
Yeah, but anyway, this was approved. This was agreed to by Ian and Park and Rec Commission. So Don is going to address or interact with Hildy to make sure that is agreed to once again. The other one is that.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
The off the lake by 6 p.m. Requirement from Mr. Deviser. I'm understanding that the people who are there past 6 p.m. are from Saybrook, and there is some combining Old Saybrook and Lime students in rowing stuff, and they're sharing equipment. I also understood that this might be the last year for Old Saybrook to be there. I don't know that for a fact. So that's the situation. I mean, I guess the Lime kids are using the equipment from, whenever they get out of school and get down there until, I guess, 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and then the Saybrook kids take over. I think that's what the problem is, and that's what has to be looked at.
Right, because we were first explained to us that they were going to incorporate the Old Saybrook kids to practice with the old Lime students. That was our first understanding. At least my understanding, I heard from you.
Yeah.
But apparently, it doesn't seem that they're actually practicing, Don, you're saying, with the...
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and this was something that was addressed in the last couple years, that Ian also agreed that he had no idea that the students were actually... There used to be Valley there also besides Old Saybrook. He had no idea that the practices were generally going on until sunset. And he also agreed that no, kids should be off the lake by 6 p.m. because they have dinner with their families, to study, to do this, that this should not be allowed. And we had discussions with Hildy last year, and also whoever the representative was from Old Saybrook, that because we thought it was worked out a couple of years ago, the Old Saybrook people were not adhering to that 6 p.m. rule, which they said they were going to. And the Park and Rec Commission actually, a consensus and a motion, I believe, was made that Old Saybrook was not allowed to practice there anymore unless they were incorporated into the Old Lime program. Now, that was what happened last year. Of course, everything went...
2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago that was done. But last year we were also talking along those lines. But of course last year and this past 2021 was an absolutely special year with the COVID business. So that never, that was just left that Old Saybrook was not invited to have their own practice there. So if that was incorporated into the Old Lime high school rowing program, it'd be fine as long as it's off by 6 o'clock. But this is another issue we're going to pursue with Hildy. Okay, and also, I believe it was about 3 years ago, the Old Lyme high school program was always having 4 regattas at Haynes Park, and which was approximately half of the regular season, regular season scheduled. Okay, that all the sports kind of adhere to. If half of the games are played at home, half are played away. Don, you brought up tonight, if 35% of the kids, or 35% of the, what was it? Lacrosse has come, well, then the other 35% of the games can occur at Town Woods Park, and approximately 65% should be taking place somewhere else.
Right.
So that's basically what applies to all sports organizations. So then that was 3 years ago, and 3 years ago the high school rowing program decided to have 5 regattas without consulting either at that time the athletic director or the PRC. So the PRC never approved doing this, and basically then this year we understand that because this is a special year after an awful year last year, that the regattas for the high school program are only going to involve 1 away team. Not usually they would invite 2 or 3 away teams for a big regatta because of the COVID restrictions, and I believe too that that spectators for spring sports are not going.
There's no spectators allowed for rowing, I understand. They will have spectators like at softball or something, but the bleachers will be closed and people will be spread out.
Right.
Some schools will not allow spectators.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, so Don and I have just had discussions, and I'd like the Park and Rec to comment on this. Well, we thought that such, things being what they are, well, rather than only the 4 regattas that the Park and Rec Commission approved of, okay, 5 regattas, which is a little more than the 8 regular season games, being that it's different circumstances, and we thought this was reasonable. So that, once again, I think the Park and Rec Commission, if you agree that we should go from 4 to 5, should allow 5 regattas to take place this year. And as I said, hopefully Don and Hildy can work through this. And how about other commissioners? Do you agree that's reasonable in light of the fact that things are so different, and we want the kids to be able to have fun and regattas that in this year only make an exception for 5 regattas rather than 4?
Yes, this is John Flower. I think that's reasonable.
Any other Park Rec Commissioner like to comment on that?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Missy. I totally agree with that as well.
Okay, you concur with that. How about Mary Ellen?
No, I agree with it.
Okay. Brendan?
Yeah, no issue.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a comment.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'm not so sure if I'm saying this correctly, but we leased the building to District 18 to use for their program. And they have a memorandum of agreement with OM Rowing Association. And is it for us to say how many races they should hold, even though I agree that, a schedule is usually divided up home and away type situations in any sport. Is it something that needs to be addressed in the lease agreement, or is it something that the Parks and Rec Commission is addressing under Ordinance 20-8?
I believe that's what's the overriding rule, is that between without having the agreement in front of me between the school and District 18 and the town that things could be scheduled there if the town agrees with the scheduling, since they have to use the Haynes Park in order to have these types of things. And it's like we said, it's only reasonable that if you have half the home games, half the away, that this would also apply to the school rowing program. Just as you said, 35%, that this is just reasonable, but we're willing to up it this year, being it's kind of special year, this past year, to 5.
Just be one other team. So.
Yeah, there's just one other team, so it's something that under 20-8, the Park and Rec Commission has say, and to us it seems very reasonable to do this. Would everyone agree that it's reasonable for us to say you could have 5 of these this year rather than 4? I just heard that I think it is from everyone.
Yes.
Right. I would like you to work this out, Don, with the athletic director.
So as an example, if there's 6 races on the schedule now, the Parks and Rec Commission is saying they have to
whittle it down to 5. Just like last year, there were 6 regattas, and we had worked out an agreement with Hildy, and Hildy was working on it with the rowing, the high school rowing program, to limit last year's planned 5 regattas back down to 4, because that's what was always agreed on, and we believe that, about half things should be there, half away. And so yes, I believe that we listened to a Zoom meeting of the Old Line Rowing Association and the Rogers Lake Authority, and heard that they were even thinking about 7 or something like that, but 5 would be reasonable, and everyone on Park and Rec agrees with that, so we hope that Hildy can work that out with the high school rowing team. Okay, that's just some examples of how District 18 AD has been working with Don Bugbee in person at times, besides just exchanging emails and things, to work things out, and basically things have worked out very well in the past with the athletic director and the Park and Rec director meeting on this. Would you say, Don?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else comment on that? Because the next one we're going to talk about is how, even though things have vastly improved with relations with the Old Line Rowing Association, there are still things that should be worked out prior to receiving a schedule of what goes on there. Okay. As Don pointed out with the lacrosse, and we had actually in the past required or asked that the Old Line Rowing Association let us have a number of members of the Old Line Rowing Association and make a differentiation of members that are Old Line residents versus non-Old Line residents. We would like that to be worked out, because that's what we did. I don't know, I think maybe when Greg Hack was president of the Rowing Association. Also, the PRC and the town require a copy of liability insurance policies of all the teams or organizations that use town property. So we would like to acquire a copy of the Old Line Rowing Association liability of insurance policy. And then once we see what the insurance policy contains, in the future then we'd only have to get a certificate that they're getting that type of policy, which is what we've done with all the other sports organizations, Don, correct? Yeah.
We get certificates.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but in this case, actually, I asked Don to get a copy through the school. We just found out that the school, even though they're leasing it to the Old Lyme Rowing Association, does not have a copy of any type of liability insurance policy from the Old Lyme Rowing Association. And what did the business person say, Don?
That is according to the business manager.
And what did she say? The
only insurance stuff she has is they insure the building and the boats, and she has nothing from Old Lyme Rowing Association.
Yeah. So we would like to get something along those lines about what the liability insurance. But will all the Park and Rec commissioners agree with that?
Yes, I mean, every organization has to do it.
Yes.
Before they can use the fields.
Right. Anybody else? Missy, Mary Ellen, Brendan?
No comment.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Agreed.
Sounds good. Agreed. Okay. Missy, you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Mary Ellen, you agree?
I do.
Okay. All right. Another thing that should be worked out. Well, I already talked about that. That was under the athletic director for up to 6 p.m. For the towns to practice there. The Old Lyme High School program to practice there. Let me see. That basically that, and we understand that in the mornings, which the PRC has agreed that basically there's no availability of parking being an issue at that point. That and I believe the program that Candace Fuchs stated to the Rogers Lake Authority was that there's rowing for the Old Lyme Rowing Association members between 6 and 8 in the morning, okay, and then once they get out of the lake or whatever, they move on out. Now, the other thing is that at times, though, say for one example is the master's program at night, that when that takes place, and the timing and the dates for things should be agreed upon by Don as a representative as the Park and Rec Commission, is that, I don't know if this is the case, but if it's 6 to 8 for the master's program, that those people that park there has to still be some parking spaces available so that if the Old Lyme resident wants to use the park, they have a place to park. If an Old Lyme resident wants to go down there and just watch the sunset or whatever, and the parking lot is totally mobbed with cars and they have no ability, well, there has to be some parking spots left available for Old Lyme residents. So that I would like Don to work out with the president of the Rowing Association something similar to what the athletic director has worked out, such that maybe not everybody that comes to row with the Rowing Association at night, some people could park at Townwoods Park. So that there's always going to be some spaces available for Old Lyme residents. What do you think, John?
It sounds quite reasonable.
Yeah. Missy, Mary Ellen, what do you think? Hello?
I think you. But do we need to say how many spaces should be available?
Well, if we would like this to be a mutual agreement, and we can if there aren't spaces available. But to me, a reasonable agreement would be half the spaces should be available. But let's see if we can work out some sort of agreement that is agreeable to everyone. But there should be spaces available for Old Lyme residents in the evening. Old Lyme residents should have spaces available all day long. But as I said, early morning rowing, there's nobody really from a resident of Old Lyme using the park at those hours. So parking is not as big an issue. So that brings me to the point that although the communication between the Old Lyme Rowing Association and Don Bugby as our point person has improved over the years, there's still certain things that should be worked on and improved, and we hopefully will have open lines of communication between, I assume it's the president of the Rowing Association with our point man, and basically our point man, Don Bugby, speaks for the Park and Rec Commission, and if he's not quite sure of a decision, well then it would come to the Park and Rec decision for Park and Rec Commission for a final judgment on that. Correct, Don?
Yes, typically the Parks and Rec Commission makes the procedures and policies, and the daily stuff I handle on a case-by-case basis or whatever that I know that the commission will agree with, and when something comes up that might not, then I bring it to your attention.
Right. Oh, okay. So, any other comments from commissioners on that? Okay.
I have one.
Sure.
Regarding the parking for Old Lyme residents, didn't we, Don, wasn't there something like that at the Soundview parking lot?
Yes.
Yes.
With like the meter pay?
Yes, they, well, there's spaces set aside for Old Lyme residents who have a current beach sticker at Soundview. Yes, there is.
Yes.
Okay. And how does that work with that, how many spaces there are and stuff?
How did it work? You mean
Right, how did you figure, I'm just wondering if we should have like a set amount of space, you had a set amount of spaces there, correct?
we just basically, I haven't been involved with there in several years now, but we just basically took a guess at what we might need, and it came out pretty close. Once in a while we might come up short, or we just put them in the field with the rest of the cars, and just didn't charge them.
Well,
But for the most part, it worked.
yeah, and that's why I say if we have good communication with the Old Lyme Rowing Association and Don, maybe something reasonable can be worked out, and if not,
The problem
yeah.
at Haynes Park, other than obviously being small, is we've lost a couple spots now because of the handicap stuff, and the parking lot is not marked out, so it's not really clear. Depending on the size of the vehicles or how good of a parker you are, it could influence how many cars can get in there. So it's more difficult at Haynes Park, no doubt.
But we'll work on that.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That good comment, Missy. Anybody else, Commissioner? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to other new business. I just have one thing to say about in Limeline. There's been some articles about the community garden program, which seems to be a very good idea, and Jim Ward is doing a wonderful job at setting up a group to lead that, working on getting grants, working on getting his nonprofit status. But something came up recently about whether or not they would need liability. Once the Park and Rec, and we spoke to Jim about this, once the Park and Rec we'll give final approval, once we talk with Jim and get in writing what their basic business plan is as to what they're going to do there, the Park and Rec Commission then will have to give the official okay for this to happen. And Jim said he was going to provide us with this information when he was at a point where he was ready to do it. But one other thing came up about whether or not they're going to need liability insurance for the people that work at this park and not this park, this community garden, and basically they'll be treated just like all the other organizations. They will need some sort of liability insurance
Right. Jim wrote back in an email today that he suspected that was the case, and he's working on that too. He will definitely comply with that.
Right. So once he supplies us with that type of information and exactly what this program is going to be all about, and his business plan, and And then because we have to give final approval for this to happen out there. And we've discussed doing this with Jim, and he was very agreeable. Yeah. Okay, that's just my one comment about new business. Anybody else have any other new business? No? Anybody on the Park and Rec Commission?
Missy does.
Missy, you have some, oh yeah, yes.
Yes.
You were gonna ask something, yes.
So, yeah, just a quick thought or question. We at LYSB, have a new grant a prevention grant that we are in charge of for 5 years, and we're looking into different campaigns and things like that we want to do in the field of prevention. A lot of it's focused on vaping or nicotine. And so I had asked Don about signage at the town park. And I know, basically my question is, there's rules at all the different parks, but there's not like the same signage, even though the rules are probably the same. And my question is, if LYSB was to provide or pay for new signage at all of the town parks that say, no alcohol, no smoking, no vaping, yada, yada, yada. Would that be something that the Park and Rec Commission would be interested in?
Well, we have, with Don, we have that at Townwoods Park signage.
Well, it says no smoking. It doesn't, looking back on it, it probably should have said no smoking or tobacco products, blah, blah, blah. But it just says, I believe it just says no smoking.
Yeah, but we do have one at Haynes Park, such as no smoking, alcohol, no parking on grass, which is another issue that has to be resolved.
We have one to be put.
I think that there's signs at all the parks, but they're kind of different and don't have, I think, like, times change, and I think right now.
Right, they're dated. Townwoods Park is what, 15 years old or something? Yeah.
Right.
We updated the Haynes
So
Park.
we got,
We updated the Haynes Park one and installed that, I don't know, a year or so ago, whatever it was. We have a similar one for White Sand Beach that's not up yet. They're trying to decide where to put it down there. But they are dated. They don't say things specifically like vaping, etc.
So that would be a good thing to work with Don on, Missy, if you guys are willing to help out. But I think the park should update whatever Missy thinks should be updated, if we all agree. Yeah. But thank you for volunteering, Missy.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Missy. Great.
Okay, cool.
So just to be clear, the real changes to the signs, other than maybe trying to get them all on the same page, is involving prevention of substance stuff, right?
Right, and I wasn't thinking, we can talk and figure out pricing on things, but I wasn't thinking necessarily taking down all the signage at the 4 parks and replacing all the rules. I was more thinking of like an additional sign that could go on the post or whatever that kind of had those prevention rules, like alcohol, tobacco, alcohol, vaping, tobacco, whatever, like free zone, type thing. Because there's no alcohol in any of those parks. There's no, it's all the same across the board, but I feel like there's different signage so people get confused. I don't know.
We'll talk.
All right, we'll talk.
Good idea, Missy.
Thank you.
Yeah, sounds
That's
good.
all I had.
All right, Bob stepped out a minute and be right back, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Is there other new business for anyone?
Okay, sorry, I had to fill up I have one of these small water bottles and I'm running out of water. So I just filled that up. Okay, so any other new business? Hearing none, we'll go to public comment. And since I know that Greg is out there and we first discussed the agreement/path for 176 Boston Post Road. Greg, you have the floor.
I would respectfully ask if I could go first because I know I'll be briefer than Greg.
Okay. If Greg's fine with that, that's fine with us. Go ahead.
No problem. I'll be no longer than hour, Bob. Don't worry.
So, okay, yeah.
That wasn't
Thank
funny.
you very much. This is Candace Brooks. I'm the president of Old Line Rowing Association. And when I took over from Greg Hack, he advised that I produce documents that describe all of our programs for both the spring, summer, and fall season. I have done that every year of my presidency with the exclusion of 2020 when we had a pandemic. I plan to do that again. And I will provide them to Park and Rec, the Regional School District 18, as well as the Rogers Lake Authority as soon as they are prepared. We plan to have those programs and all that information after our board meeting on April 16th. So I think that communication plan has been in place longer than my presidency and has worked fairly well. So you can expect a complete description of all of our programs and plans for the 2021 year after our board meeting on April 16th. I would also like to comment that before the Park and Rec invests $250,000 in improvements to the playground at Haynes Park, that it would be prudent to put in place a master plan so that we know where all of the things that are planned for this lovely location are slated to go. I think it would be very prudent to have a professionally developed master plan before that work is initiated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We hear you, and we thank you for your comments. We would also request that some of the issues that we have with parking, for instance, and all that, if you could speak with Don and work on this, it would be very good. And we appreciate the fact that you do supply very accurate information on what the programs are, when they're taking place, and what the time frames are. Okay, anybody else?
Great.
From Park and Rec?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. Greg, your turn.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Again, it certainly was not my intention or our group's intention for you to spend as much time as you have during the meeting on the proposed agreement. I guess we were hopeful that some of this might happen offline among you folks and with the town attorney. But anyway, we do appreciate it. I guess I have a question in terms of what our marching orders are. It looks like you agreed with a number of the things that we discussed. There were a couple of things I took notes on. So Bob, what would you like us to do? Respond to you again, or would you like to give me a summary of what would be acceptable? What's the next step?
I think the next step would be that we've gone over we've done this a few times now. We've gone over your last request, and I commented extensively on it. There is a tape of this meeting, so if the things and then I asked the commissioners if they agreed with this or that, and generally they agreed with the comments, that if you could listen to the tape and tell us what you agree to do, that would be great, and put it in writing that you agree to that. Say, for instance, the simple ones, changing portaging to carrying, which was fine. Some of the other ones were not as straightforward as that. However, I believe the response has been very straightforward, and that, especially when it comes to who would be using the projected path, and who would have the ability to use that path, that if you are in agreement with that, and what you don't agree with what was said by myself and agreed to by the Park and Rec commissioners, you might want to send that to us. But if you do agree, like all 6 of you to sign this agreement, and you do agree with the last section about at will and all that, and you say that, then I think what we could do is, there are very few, as we said, we just wanted to minimize any changes to the original September agreement, which the Park and Rec Commission endorsed, and the first selectman endorsed, who, by the way, as I said, requested that an agreement be made way back in June? June, was it? Yeah, June, yeah, at the June meeting. And he actually attended the meeting in June. That would be the next step, and then if you want to have your attorney look at it, I believe you maybe have a third attorney now to look at it. If he has comments of what he doesn't like, before we engage our attorney in any comments, we would appreciate it if it comes to the Park and Rec Commission first, because we're not going to have our attorney working on things that the Park and Rec Commission doesn't agree with. So that would be fine, and if you could get that to us soon, the sooner we resolve this, the better it is for all, and that, maybe I think within the next couple of weeks you can be able to do something like that.
I would love to within days, Bob. I would hope that we could work these things out in a cordial way in between the meetings, rather than having to go through this exercise and all of you guys have to listen in.
No. This is where I disagree with you, Greg, because it just can't be between several members. It has to be approved by the Park and Rec Commissioners. And that's why I go to extensive work, I guess it is, to make all these points clear and find out whether or not the commissioners also agree. So it's not something that you and I and Brendan and attorneys are going to sit around and talk about. We think we have a very fine agreement, and we think it's actually very beneficial to you because it's special. I mean, this is a special limited use that we don't have to do. And like I said, you're not denied using that park. You can use it just the same as everyone else that has to come in through the boathouse driveways. We're trying to work this agreement out in an equitable manner, and we believe we have. And to continue on with this and change that September agreement, only if minor changes. We're not, in fact, the town does not want to invest any more time or funds on with attorneys. It's the attorneys don't come up with the policy. We do, and we've tried to work with you to do that. So I think after tonight, it's pretty clear if you listen to the tape, what's been said, that if you can comment on that, that would be very helpful, and maybe then we can give it for final review by our attorney, and if you have an attorney, your attorney, and your LLC members. So I think that's the approach to take, Greg.
All right, very good. Just two other quick little things.
Okay.
And since I know it's getting, but at the very beginning, number one, we are willing to sign an agreement. We said that. But the whole premise about the need for it, we have a fundamental disagreement. We are going to look past that. But I guess the issue is that you're treating us as if we're a rowing association or as if we're a soccer club, which we're not. We're folks who own a home. It's organized as an LLC. The neighbors on either side are also homeowners organized as LLC. There's a gentleman across the park from us on the water whose home is owned as an LLC. If he walks through the park with his granddaughter to use a swing set, you're not going to ask him to provide insurance and sign an agreement. So fundamentally, we see ourselves as the same. I just wanted to add that because maybe the other members, the other commissioners hadn't heard that perspective. But anyway, we understand your perspective and we're willing to move on from that. The only last thing, and then I'll say thank you very much, is regarding the occasional guest. I brought that up only because this is a weird year. My son Austin, who you may be aware is an Olympic athlete, he was home for a while. He wanted to train on the lake. He wanted to use my rowing shell and walk through the path to get to the docks. I told him he couldn't do that. That seemed a little bit sad. And I had to tell my son, a son of Old Lyme High School, an Olympic athlete, that he couldn't do that. So I hope that from time to time when someone was around, I could ask Don cordially and say, hey, is it okay if Austin rows here a couple of days to use the path? That's why I brought that up. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, and Greg, basically the Park and Rec Commission in the town has agreed that people with the Old Lyme Rowing Association can participate and enter the park for O-Line Rowing Association activities. Okay? That O-Line Rowing Association has a general deal at night, in the evening, that will be fine. The idea that anyone from the O-Line Rowing Association, and we've gone over this before, just decides to show up at any time during the day and row there has not been acceptable to the PRC or the town. So as far as your son is concerned, that's fine. He's a young guy. He can just, if he wants to train with the O-Line Rowing Association, so be it. But just to be able to access the park, we've never agreed to that for anybody from the O-Line Rowing Association. Just somebody from out of town, say, just to come down there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and go rowing. That has not been agreed to. And it's, you know, I like you, I like your family. I helped coach your son in baseball many years ago. Very nice guy. But I think that anything that's done with rowing shells down there has to be associated with O-Line Rowing Association approved activities. Okay? If he wants to train with them, that's fine. If he's a part of that.
That time has passed. But anyway, thank you very much, Bob. I appreciate your perspective.
Well, okay, all right. Thank you, Greg, for your comments. Anyone else in the public out there for public comment? Okay, hearing none, would somebody make a motion to adjourn, please? John, motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, somebody like to second it?
I'll second it, Missy.
Okay, Missy. Any more discussion? I don't think so. All those approve, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those that don't approve? Anyone? Okay. Anyone abstain? No? Okay. We're done, and I appreciate everybody. It's kind of a long meeting, but we got a lot done. Thank you very much, everyone. Right. Bye.
Thank you.